My favorite kind of horror movies are the retro slashers, and I don't mean just the obvious ones like Halloween or Friday the 13th. I'm talking movies like Blood Rage, Slumber Party Massacre 2, or one of the favorites here at Nerd Sloth, Black Christmas. But what if you could play a slasher instead of just watching one? I'm Chris from the Indie Game Arcade podcast, and I play a lot of indie games. And today, I've created a list for you gorehounds of 10 indie horror games that put you in a slasher movie. If you know the developer-puppet combo, you know what you're in for. VHS filters, PS1-style graphics, and a lot of screaming. Murder House drops you into a crumbling estate once owned by a serial killer. You're a news crew hoping for a story and quickly discover the house is anything but empty. The Easter Ripper, in all his oversized bunny suit glory, stalks you through hallways, wasting no time turning you into prey. The game leans into clunky controls and awkward camera angles, turning them into tools of tension rather than flaws. Exploration is slow, deliberate, and punishing. Hiding in closets or sprinting down halls feels genuinely risky. You're not armed to the teeth. You're cornered, fumbling, and desperate. Exactly how playing a slasher game should feel. Northbury Grove begins with a classic setup. You're tagging along with some friends to head to a music festival, which unfortunately gets postponed. And while camping out in the woods, your friend Grace goes missing. And what starts as a simple search through back roads and abandoned houses quickly turns into a fight for survival. The town isn't as empty as it seems. A deer skull-adorned butcher is out there, and once you cross paths, the whole thing shifts into a deadly game of hide-and-seek. Exploration is tense rather than flashy. You're picking through cluttered interiors, listening for the wrong kind of footsteps, and piecing together scraps of information that hint at something larger having taken place. The grainy VHS visuals and retro synthetics aren't just window dressing, they make the whole thing feel like a lost tape somebody dug up and shouldn't have played. At Dead of Night is an FMV horror experience that drops you into a haunted hotel with a mystery to unravel. You play as Maya, a student visiting the Seaview Hotel for, what else? A music festival, only to discover the building is anything but welcoming. Something sinister lurks behind every door, and the hotel's owner, Jimmy, is more than just a little creepy. He's actively hunting you. Your only tools are observation, stealth, and a ghost voice receiver that lets you communicate with spirits, uncovering pieces of a tragic story that will slowly make the whole place feel alive. The blend of live-action footage and 3D environments makes exploration feel cinematic, while the tension builds naturally as you realize every decision could put you or your friends in danger. It's part horror film, part game, and full of memorable moments. The Lakeview Cabin Collection is a mischievous little anthology that outfits vintage slasher movie beats with a gleefully mean sandbox. The central hub is a movie theater, and each playable film strips horror down to a compact playground, refurbishing a cursed camp, fighting through a cannibal-infested manor, or surviving a suburban Halloween with a killer on the loose. You swap between multiple characters, grab anything that isn't nailed down, and use the environment for gory improvisation. Light a bonfire, set a trap, or turn a mundane tool into a brilliant, horrible solution. Minigames and secrets unlock as you clear episodes, and endings shift depending on who lives, who dies, and how badly you mess things up. It's often crude, occasionally unforgiving, and always playful. Party Hard flips the slasher formula entirely. You're not running from danger, you are the danger. The game drops you into raucous parties where music, laughter, and dancing fill the rooms, but your goal is stealthily eliminating partygoers without being caught. Top-down grid-based levels make each move a careful calculation. Avoid security cameras, patrols, and wandering guests while setting traps, locking doors, or improvising kills with whatever's at hand. It's tense and chaotic, with humor threading through the neon blood-soaked environments. Every level feels like a puzzle with multiple solutions, rewarding planning, timing, and quick thinking. The pixel art and pulsing soundtrack contrast sharply with the darkly comedic violence, making each hit both satisfying and absurd. Party Hard isn't about raw horror. It's about the thrill of meticulous planning, watching your chaos unfold, and experiencing the unexpected ways your strategy can go wrong. Slayaway Camp is a love letter to slasher films and puzzle mechanics alike. You play a semi-familiar-looking masked killer named Skullface, navigating grid-like environments, finding the perfect path to eliminate victims while avoiding hazards. It's blocky, colorful, and over-the-top, turning gory murder into an oddly charming mental exercise. Each level presents a self-contained challenge where the solution isn't always obvious. One wrong move can leave victims alive, or worse, getting Skullface killed by any number of hazards. Humor and homage blend seamlessly. References to classic slasher tropes, titles, and scenes pop up alongside clever visual gags. As you progress, new obstacles, mechanics, and enemies keep the puzzle loop fresh, while unlockable killers and costumes reward exploration. While the game never takes itself too seriously, it still demands focus and planning. With a sequel also available featuring some actual slasher icons like Chucky, it's a game that horror fans can't miss. Homebody traps you in a time loop during a quiet reunion with old friends gone wrong. A masked killer begins picking everyone off one by one, and you, as Emily, already dealing with her own mental health struggles, are next. Each time Emily dies, the night resets, forcing you to remember details and anticipate threats, blending strategy with the tension, because learning from your mistakes is the only path forward. Every interaction, from hiding spots to observing patterns, matters. You're never fully safe, and the loop ensures that fear accumulates rather than dissipates. Puzzle solving and memory becomes your biggest survival tools, making it a psychological experience as much as a physical one. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, there's an inherent loophole here. If I memorize all the patterns, I have nothing to worry about, right? Think again. This killer is adaptive. So try the same thing multiple times, and eventually they'll get wise, making Homebody a perfectly terrifying experience. And if you like more psychological horror experiences, you should check out our video on under-the-radar Lovecraftian indie games as well. Okay, so you should have known we'd have another puppet combo title because nobody makes a late-night errand feel like a crime scene quite like they do. Bloodwash puts you in the shoes of Sarah, a pregnant college student stuck doing laundry at a 24-hour laundromat after midnight. The place is nearly deserted, grimy, and tied to rumors of a serial killer known as the Womb Ripper. From the buzzing fluorescents to the sketchy strangers, everything feels like one bad moment away from disaster. The PS1 graphics, VHS fuzz, and clunky movement crank up the unease instead of hiding it. While waiting on your wash, you sift through the empty shop and quiet corners, never fully sure you're alone. Eventually, the slow dread erupts into a full-on slasher panic, turning a mundane chore into a blood-soaked trap. Killer frequency takes the most original route in horror gaming you've probably ever seen. In this game, you're an overnight radio DJ who suddenly finds himself responsible for the lives of callers who are reporting an urban legend serial killer from the town's past after said killer took out the only sheriff. The town's survival hinges on your guidance, where to run, choosing hiding spots, or what to do when it seems like all hope is lost. Each caller presents a self-contained challenge, and successfully navigating them builds a subtle rhythm of real anxiety and relief. The station's retro aesthetic, neon lights, and synth-heavy soundtracks bring instant immersion, and bits of timely humor make for an excellently paced story. And don't worry, the game isn't all answering calls, because how do you think that killer's gonna react once they realize somebody's been helping their victims escape? The HappyHills Homicide series is another that flips the usual slasher formula, placing you behind the mask. In the first game, each episode is a short, self-contained scenario where you plan and execute stealthy eliminations. Movement and environmental awareness are key here. Grab objects, stalk your targets, and finish them off without getting caught. The presentation leans heavily into VHS-inspired pixel graphics and dark humor, making each kill absurdly theatrical without ever feeling mean-spirited, just like the best horror flicks of the 70s and 80s. The sequel expands on the original formula with additional characters to flesh out a greater story and adds even more jaw-dropping moments. Beyond the mechanics, the series thrives on style and personality, with visual gags, ridiculous setups, and oodles of throwbacks. Despite the grotesque premise, it's extremely playful in tone, even cheesy at times, and that's part of what makes it so great. I love a good slasher with a mask, so HappyHills Homicide and Killer Frequency are definitely my personal favorites from the list. But what are yours? Let's talk about it in the comments or over in our Discord. If you're ever looking for updates on the latest indie games every week, then go check out my podcast Indie Game Arcade, which comes out every Wednesday and Friday. Keep supporting indie game devs, and I'll see you here next week for another list of the best indie games.